Psychology says people who don't have friends are often misunderstood, not broken, not awkward, and definitely not the problem. Social life can feel heavier, more exhausting, and more complicated than it does for most people. If you spent years struggling to build or maintain friendships, it's not because something is wrong with you. Actually, stop. We need to be more precise than that. You didn't click this video because you needed permission to exist. You clicked because somewhere under the politeness of daily life, something isn't adding up. The problem isn't social skill. It isn't effort. It isn't even loneliness in the way most people use that word. You have, without choosing to, become an observer. You notice the performance in conversation. You sense the transactional weight in casual invitations. Where others see connection, you see the machinery beneath it. That specific, exhausting clarity is exactly what we're going to pull apart. But be careful, because what feels like insight might be something else entirely. The human startle response is one of the oldest neurological programs still running in modern hardware. In milliseconds, the amygdala processes incoming stimuli and decides danger or not. It bypasses your prefrontal cortex entirely. You don't think, you react. Now consider what happens when your phone lights up. The sound itself is nothing, a vibration, a frequency. But your nervous system doesn't process it as a sound. It processes it as a summons. And summoning, biologically, means one of two things. You are needed or you are caught, belonging or exposure, tribe or exile. This is what researchers call neural intrusiveness, the degree to which a digital stimulus bypasses conscious filtering and lands directly in the body's threat assessment system. The phone doesn't ring, it intrudes. And with every intrusion, your nervous system performs a micro-calculation designed for predators and rival tribes, not push notifications from people you met twice at a work function. This is the digital parasite model. Not because technology is malevolent, but because a parasite doesn't need malice. It only needs a host whose defenses are calibrated for a different world. You are not socially defective. You are running ancient threat detection software on modern civilian infrastructure. The result is social taxation, the invisible energy debt accumulated simply by being present in a world of constant human signal. But here is where the science gets strange, and where we have to leave it behind. In 2022, a study on auditory stimulus response in socially isolated adults produced a finding the researchers called counterintuitive. The brain was not reacting to the sound of the phone, it was reacting to the interruption. Not the content of the notification, not the identity of the caller, the break itself, the sudden rupture in whatever internal state the subject had been maintaining, was the threat. The researchers began exploring a question their data couldn't fully answer. What exactly is being interrupted? There is a psychological concept older than smartphones called the Zeigarnik effect. The mind's tendency to fixate on incomplete tasks, unfinished loops. The brain allocates more cognitive resources to incompletion than to resolution. We are, at a structural level, haunted by open doors. What if your anxiety around social contact isn't fear of rejection, but a Zeigarnik loop that has never closed? Every friendship that faded without explanation, every conversation that ended strangely, every moment you were present in a room and simultaneously felt undetected. None of these closed. They are still running below the threshold of thought, consuming processing power. What if the interruption registers as threat, not because the phone is dangerous, but because you were, in that moment before it rang, finally alone with a self that felt coherent? And the phone didn't disturb your peace, it reminded you that you exist to others. Is it the phone you fear, or is it the proof that you still exist, unfinished, unresolved in someone else's mind? We're not going to answer that. The logical prescription would be silence. Remove the stimuli, quiet the parasympathetic overload, retreat strategically from the noise. And this works. Solitude reduces cortisol, allows the nervous system to recalibrate. This is not avoidance, this is maintenance. But there is a threshold past which solitude stops being medicine and becomes the illness it was supposed to cure. The human nervous system requires a minimum of social signal to maintain identity coherence, the stable sense of being a self that exists in relation to others. Below that threshold, the brain fills the silence with its own content. It begins rehearsing threats that haven't happened. It invents rejection. It simulates abandonment. Idle threat detection machinery needs something to detect. Too much social contact triggers parasympathetic overload. Too little triggers psychological decay. The middle ground isn't a place, it's a corridor. And the corridor isn't stable, it shifts. What worked last year won't work this year. What drained you in March might sustain you in September. This is the liminal space where most people who have no friends actually live. Not in isolation, not in connection, in the corridor between them, permanently recalibrating. And we are not going to tell you how to leave it. There is no three-step framework here, no protocol, no morning routine that closes the Zeigarnik loops, neutralizes the digital parasite, and moves you cleanly into a room where people know your name and mean it. That version of this video exists. You've seen it. It has block letters that say "Stop doing this" and a chapter called "The Fix." It will tell you to join a club, but what we're offering instead is accuracy. The reason you have no friends is not a solvable problem in the way a broken bone is solvable. It is a condition. The condition of being a social animal whose architecture was built for 40 people and a shared fire, dropped into a world of billions of signals and the constant requirement to perform coherence for an audience that is itself performing coherence back at you. Every person you found exhausting was also exhausted. Every conversation that felt hollow was hollow on both sides. The performance is mutual. The loneliness is structural. Whether knowing that changes anything, whether naming the corridor makes it wider, whether understanding the parasite reduces its appetite, we genuinely don't know. What we know is that you noticed. You sat with this long enough to reach this sentence. That is either the beginning of something or the most complete form of something that doesn't require a beginning. We can't tell you which one. That gap between the observation and the meaning is yours. If this explanation felt like it hit a wall you can't see, comment "the wall" below. We'll be looking for those who understand the gap.